Oh, yeah, you could. Yeah, good. Very good. don't even see that being an issue.
Hello.
You got my email?
I did.
Do you know who that? Who may give it to?
Valerie.
Come back right before the closing. Do so. Okay, good. Okay, good. Yeah.
No, I don't have it. I need a phone number for him. I'll call him.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please consult your... Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please consult your directory and call...
That one. That one.
Hello, Cisco Unity Connection Messaging System.
I'm here.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. The hour of 7 o'clock having arrived and passed. Apologies for our tardiness. I call to order this legislative meeting of the Woodland Hills School Board for the month of June 2018. Ms. Pule, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. David Graves.
Here.
Ms. Sharday Seligson. Present. Mr. Jeff Hanchett.
Here.
Ms. Ava Johnson. Ms. Rhonda Curry. Here. Dr. Jeff Hildebrand.
Here.
Ms. Paige Strasbaugh. Here. Mr. Mike Belmont.
Here, sort of.
And Ms. Jamie Glasser.
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence.
Oh, yeah.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence.
Oh. I don't have this information. We did have one guy, but I forgot. Yeah. Sorry, we're observing a moment of silence for Lois Trentini, employee of the school district, passed away. Thank you.
And also we'll note the tragic loss of life in East Pittsburgh. Antoine Rose, student.
Thank you.
Thank you all. That'll move us to acceptance of the minutes for the May meetings. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Mr. Graves. Any corrections or questions about the minutes? Okay, seeing none, take the vote.
Mr. Belmont, your vote?
I'm sorry. Was that on? Something cut out. Was that the minute?
Yes, it's
Yes.
the minutes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. The board met in executive session this evening to discuss personnel matters.
Mike, can you mute, please?
Mr. Johnson, do you have any announcements?
Yes, Mr. President. The only announcement I wanted to make was, again, in reference to the tragic loss of our student Antoine Rose. We have arranged, there are our grief counselors here in this building in Fairless. They will be here through the end of the week. We welcome any students. They don't have to be Woodland Hills students or just any community members at all that have a need to talk to somebody. We will have counselors here in our Parent Resource Center, and anyone is welcome to stop by, and we will do whatever we can. That's all I have.
Thank you. Does anyone else have announcements? Okay. Seeing none, we have no student speakers this month.
Yep.
Presentations, Dr. Livingston. Please. Sure,
Okay.
that's great.
I would like to introduce everyone to Bryson Filas. He is now a third grader at Wilkins, but while he was a second grader, he entered the WQED PBS Kids Writers Contest, and there were over 1,000 entries from children that were, the entries were submitted from Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, Maryland, and Delaware. And Bryson ended up being one of the 26 finalists of all of those entries. And the link went out, many of you voted, and I appreciate that very, very much. So there were two categories, the voting category, and then the judges then judged the children's writing. And the judges voted Bryson's piece that he entered, Maximus the Zombie Kid, as first place. So of all those entries... So of all those entries, Bryson was selected by the judges as first place, and we were thrilled to. I know, right?
You all want.
Yes. So we at Wilkins were very, very proud of Bryson, and so we just have a little plaque for you.
Thank you.
And we also know that you love Diary of the Wimpy Kid, so we wanted to make sure you had much to do over the summer.
Thank you.
And lots to read. And we're very, very proud of you. And we wanted to thank his family for coming and for bringing him here this evening. And, keep encouraging him to read and write, and it'd be really awesome. I do have to tell you, one of the, I believe it was Miss Silverman, the high school English teacher, had sent me an email. She's one of the English teachers at the high school, and she said she can't wait to have you in her class when you get to the high school. So you've already got people at the high school looking out for you and waiting for you to be there with them. Okay? All right. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Congratulations. Okay. That will move us to registered speakers. Darnika Reed. Good evening, as always. Just a reminder that the board welcomes comment. Please give your name and address, and comments are limited to 2 minutes. We'll answer questions as a part of our debate this evening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Darnika Reed, 134 Leniki Street, Wilkins Township. So, speaking on 2.11, public complaints, because I have a complaint. And also because I'd like for the board to start listening to public complaints as well. First, I do not want the contracts renewed for the SROs for the Churchill Police Department and Rankin Police Department. I've said that last year and I was ignored, so hopefully you listen this year. Well, the ones who were here, the board members who were here last year. The reason is the administrators have proven to be irresponsible when it comes to police misconduct. There's no reason it should have continued in the schools for at least 10 years, or about 10 years. The police officers are not being reprimanded when there is misconduct. Also, I have met with families whose children were charged for with felonies for fist fights that did not include weapons. That's unacceptable. They're just being funneled into the criminal justice system. As a parent, I'm afraid to send my child to school because I don't want him to be harmed. I also don't want him to get a criminal record because someone just decides that they want to harass him. Also, I keep seeing the teachers, they're claiming that they're afraid of the children in the schools, and that's one of the reasons why I know they want to keep police in the schools. Well, if they're afraid of the kids, they need to get a new profession. If they're not, they can't handle working with these kids, they need to work somewhere else. These kids are mandated to go to school. They are not mandated to have a job. Also, when they come in and they say that they're afraid of the kids, we all know which kids they're talking about. And it's unacceptable. Racism's been going on for far too long in this district. And it's time for you to do something about it. Your individuals make the choice to not renew the contracts. You all have a duty to protect the kids, and that hasn't been happening. So real fast, I do have a solution for it. The Rankin police officer, I have not had not one complaint about him. I actually heard that he's a pretty decent person. Why not make him, take him out of uniform, make him head of security? So then he can oversee the security guards, because I hear they're outlined also. He can do that. He could just be out of uniform. They can call him Mr. whatever his last name is. And I heard he also is pretty good with talking to teachers when they're out of line as well. So I feel like the school would be safer if you made him like a head of security or something like that. Something to where these kids are not being funneled into this, the criminal justice system. Thank you.
Thank you. David Grieve. Good evening.
Good evening, board members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is David Grieve, and I live at 208 West Swissvale Avenue in Edgewood. And tonight, I want to join the comment that was made by Ms. Darnika Reed, as well as kind of speak a little bit to personnel matters related to that. Tonight, you're going to be dealing with some fairly mundane personnel matters when you get to item 6 on the agenda, and I expect that a lot of those things will be quickly approved. But very soon, as Darnika mentioned, you're going to have a different kind of decision, and you're going to have a decision about whether to continue with the school resource officers, with cops in our schools. It's my sincere hope that you will indeed make a very swift decision in rejecting the continuation of that contract and moving on to something new and better. I hardly need to remind you about the events of last night, which we just heard about not 10 minutes ago. One of our students, Antoine Rose Jr., was shot dead in the back by a police officer to whom he posed no threat, had no weapon. As a board, you are responsible for ensuring that our children are safe in our schools. Unlike, for example, our paraprofessionals, 2 of whom will be leaving this year, school resource officers only make the schools less safe and more dangerous. There was a 2016 meta-analysis on the issue by the Adolescent Research Review, and they concluded that the presence of school resource officers in high schools is associated with higher levels of exclusionary discipline, which is yet another problem that we have in this district, and the one that also falls starkly along racial lines. Our own recent experiences also at Woodland Hills have highlighted in stark color the violence that can accompany the presence of SROs in our schools. And this should not surprise us, because the main purpose of police is not to keep places safe. We refer to them as law enforcement because we understand that their primary role is an enforcement of order, and a very particular order that preys on the vulnerabilities of students, poor students and students of color. It's an order that privileges compliance through violence. So as you consider the departures of some of our critical support staff this evening, please also keep in mind the urgency of removing police from our schools and enhancing the support structures available to our students. Our schools are safer without police and with more specialists who are trained in child development. Thank you.
And that'll move us to the agenda.
Action item 2.1, request approval of the contract with Kate Granum and Coluccio for management services at the Carnegie Free Library of Swissvale, effective July 1st, 2018, at a cost of $32,500 from the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion about the item? Seeing none, take the vote.
Mr. Valmont, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.2, request approval of the attached resolution 53318, authorizing Alicia L. Lentz as an approved signer of contracts with the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Mr. Valmont?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.3, request ratification of the PSBA advertisement costing $475 for the superintendent search firm from the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions? Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm a slow learner, Joy.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.4, first reading of policy 707 on facilities usage. This is the first reading.
Any questions on this? Okay. Seeing none.
Action item 2.5, first reading of new policy 214 on homeless students.
Any questions? Okay.
Action item 2.6, first and final reading of policy 626 on federal programs, attachment 1.
Is there a motion?
So moved. So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions on this attachment? It is a revision to the attachment, not the policy.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.7, second and final reading of revised policy 105 on curriculum.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions on this one? Okay. Seeing none.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.8, second and final reading of policy 816 on video surveillance.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions on this one? Okay. Seeing none, call a vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.9, second and final reading of policy 808 on food service.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.10, second and final reading of policy 138 on language instruction, educational programs.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions? Seeing none,
Yes.
Thank you.
motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.11, second and final reading of policy 908 regarding public complaints.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions?
I would just point out this policy is primarily aimed at federally funded functions we do, so it's really only widely applicable to things that are strictly funded by Title I, which would be supplemental reading instruction and things like that. It's not a general policy.
All right. Any questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Now move us to special education. Action item 4.1, request approval of a contract with Glade Run Lutheran Services for 3 therapeutic classrooms at the Rank and Promise program for the 18-19 school year at a service cost amount of $267,000 in the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions on this?
Yeah, so we had talked about the need for 3 rooms. Is that we're sure we're going to need 3 rooms, and if we say only need 2?
No, we're pretty sure we're going to need
confident.
3.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
For compliance, yeah, already we would,
Yeah.
we are at over compliance
Sure.
for the state, not only for the special ed side of Chapter 14, but also the mental health, so that's why we need that 3rd classroom.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was a guarantee for next year. I knew we were,
Yeah,
cool.
they'll be used.
All right, thanks.
Any questions? Addition? Okay. Seeing none?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 4.2, approval to renew the district's contract agreement with Care Unlimited for the 18-19 school year for a contracted amount of $45 for registered nurse services, $40 an hour for LPN, licensed practical nurse services, and $24 an hour for home health aid services. Again, these come from the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions on this? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 4.3, approval to renew the district's contract agreement with Bayada, I believe I pronounced that correctly, Bayada Home Care, through Bayada Pediatrics for a student JH for the 18-19 school year. The contracted amount of $45 per hour.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 4.4, approval of a related services agreement with ACLD Tillotson, an approved private school, for a personal care assistant for student IO during the 18-19 school year. The contract, is not to exceed $8,000 in a school year from general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I had a question. So in the contract, it wasn't clear to me, are they bringing services to the school for this student, or is the student going to that school?
It's actually for the bus, for to and from, yes.
That's where, okay. I'm sorry, I must have completely missed that somewhere.
That was a hard contract to, to read.
All right, sorry about that. I apologize.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
I move us to personnel, action item 6.1, and request approval of sections A, B, D, F, G, and H.
Is there a motion?
Motion to table B6.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion to table? We'd have to go into executive for that. Okay. We will take a vote on the motion to table.
Just B6, correct?
Yes. Unless there's any others. Okay.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Allison?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh? Strasbaugh, excuse me. Mike Belmont? Mr.
Yes.
Belmont? Ms. Glasser?
Yes. Okay. Is there a motion on the personnel tab as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any need to go into executive session to discuss the remainder of the personnel tab? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
I'll vote yes and I'll abstain on G18.
Thank you.
Can you fill out that form later, or does he have to do it tonight?
You can fill out the form later.
Okay.
Hard for him to fill it out now.
Okay.
Ms. Curry, did you get a box?
That's right.
Can you, yes or no? Oh, there you go.
Done.
No, I'm sorry, Michael.
Yes.
The motion as amended carries unanimously.
Since we've done that, I would like to take a moment to ask Mr. Vaughn Pitts if he'd come up to the stage. He's our new girls basketball coach. We'd like to welcome him officially. Congratulate him. Congratulations, Coach.
Good evening, and thank you. Thank you so much. I am very appreciative of the opportunity of coaching our girls basketball team. Looking forward to the new challenge. Looking forward to actually taking our girls basketball program to another level. Very gracious. Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Corsi, I really appreciate it. You know, the interview was very intensive. However, I think, a type of interview like that, our girls needed someone, and I think I am the candidate, to lead our girls in the direction that we need to go to. First and foremost, before we were basketball players or we were student athletes, And I don't want to lose sight of that, and like to put forth the effort and challenge our girls academically. You know, I think we have a great nucleus. Looking at our girls from our distance last year, we were right on the brink, you know, of making the playoffs. And I think this year, you know, with some skills and some other nuances added, I think we should be right there. So looking forward to the challenge. Thank you for the opportunity. And again, have a great evening.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
That'll move us to Section 7, Technology, Action Item 7.1, Request Permission and Authorization to renew the Harris ProSoft Maintenance Contract for the financial package for 1819 at an contract amount of $27,766 from the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hinchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions on the renewal of the ProSoft piece? Okay. Seeing none?
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Every time we go.
It seems to be raining.
Yeah, I would say.
What's that? Motion carries unanimously.
Action Item 7.2, Request Authorization to renew our Power School Maintenance Contract for our student information systems for the 1819 school year at a contract amount of $58,113, again from general fund.
Yeah. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hinchett. Any questions? Seeing none?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action Item 7.3, Permission to renew Blackboard Connect for the district's parent alert system for 1819 school year at an amount of $7,030 from general fund.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hinchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions on these?
It's the infamous robocall system.
Seeing none, take the vote.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Let me fix that.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay.
Action Item 7.4, request permission and authorization to renew the Think Through Math Learning Contract for 1819 at an amount of $23,000, also from general fund.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hinchett, second by Ms. Seligson. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action Item 7.5, permission to renew our agreement with Follett for our school library collection system for the 1819 school year at a contract amount of $5,730.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hinchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Ms. Glasser, before we go on, when we voted on Ms. Coluccio's contract, we didn't recognize she was in the
did not.
audience. Kate, are you still out back there?
She is.
Kate?
Dr.
Granaman? When we voted we didn't recognize you when we voted to renew your contract. I just wanted you to stand up and be recognized as our great librarian at Swissville Library, and thank you for your service, and look forward to working you with another year. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gleis.
Absolutely.
Action item 7.6, permission to renew a subscription with Star 360 by Renaissance Learning for the 18-19 school year at a contract amount of $18,711 from the general fund.
Is there? Okay. Moved by Mr. Hanchett.
Second.
Second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion?
Just a quick one.
Yeah.
We're only using this at our intermediate building. Is that correct?
Mr. Clausen, do you know the answer to that?
Star 360 handles all of our secondary progress monitoring. So when we think about our upper grade levels at the high school, and it would cover algebra at the academy if they were using it there. So it's really our secondary buildings that use Star 360.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Mr. Brownmont?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 7.7, permission to renew school messenger for the district's email filtering and monitoring system for the 18-19 school year at a contract amount of $7,519 from general fund.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Just a quick note. I think you forgot the 50 cents, Mr. Johnson.
I did forget the 50 cents.
Yeah, we don't want to leave that out.
You don't want to forget 50 cents. You can get in trouble doing that.
That's right. Any questions on that? Okay. Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 7.8, permission to renew our agreement with Schoology for the district's grade book system for 2018-19 school year at a cost of $19,001.52 from general fund.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 7.9, purchase a block of prepaid network support hours, which includes remote support and on-site support and diagnostics and programming at a contract amount of $4,000, also from general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, take the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 7.10, request permission to renew support with Apple Education for mobile device management for the 18-19 school year at a contract amount of $4,000, also from general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 7.11, Request permission to renew School Point, the website provider contract for 18-19 school year, at a contract amount of $7,000 from general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 7.12, request permission to renew our contract with Curriculum Associates for the 18-19 school year at an amount of $116,387.23 general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbaugh, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions? I think we're having a weather alert.
Yeah, we are.
Everyone's getting their flash flood alerts.
Yeah.
Just a reminder on this, this is for our iReady system, which is our really terrific system we've incorporated thanks to Mr. Clausen. It's been very successful for us.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 7.13, permission to renew a support agreement with Impero Solutions for the district's computer desktop management system, the amount of $4,500 from general fund.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, take the vote.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 7.14, request permission to accept the photographic services proposal submitted by Life Touch Photography. It's for student photos.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions on the photo proposal? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
That'll move us to buildings and grounds. Action item 10.1, request approval of Reynolds Brothers Incorporated, change order 001 totaling $16,000 for the removal of the Dixon Stadium lights and transformers. This comes from Capital Project Fund 39.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Finney, when do we anticipate this will begin?
The power as of Monday was disconnected by Duquesne Light, and the poles will be coming down starting next week.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 10.2, request permission for the use of facilities by outside organizations for, I believe at this point that should be the 18-19 school year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? I note that the Edgewood Symphony is listed on the uses. We'd had some conversation clarification about their fee. Are we comfortable with the fee that's on the tabs? Okay. All right. Seeing no motions, we'll call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 10.3, permission to approve the new softener system for the boilers at the junior senior high school and the Rank and Promise program at a cost of $5,995 from the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 10.4, request permission to approve the district water treatment for the boiler systems at all buildings at a cost of $6,000 from the general fund.
Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions on this?
What's the difference between the two? Because one's a water softener, one's a treatment for the boilers, or both for boilers?
The first one is the unit. It's going to be put in place at the high school. It's a softener unit that you have to have in place to connect to the boilers.
Okay.
So that's a separate price. The second option is the company's going to come in and put the chemical treatments during the wintertime in the system throughout the school district.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
I'll move us to legal matters. Action item 11.1.
Let's go one more.
10.5.
Oh, you're right, we do. I missed the high school. I apologize. Action item 10.5. Permission to ratify the sidewalk repairs at the junior senior high school to Mealy Mechanical LLC at a cost of $4,687 from Capital Reserve.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions on this?
About time.
Kind of.
Okay.
Were we able to get an answer for, it's not this building, the academy, about those sidewalks?
Great question.
Yes, I met with Reynolds and another company that came out also to look at the sidewalks, and I requested a core sample. So now I'm waiting for that company to do a core sample for the sidewalk to see what could have happened with that concrete within the 3 years that it's been put in place. So that's where I'm at with that.
Okay, would that kind of be the same process here? Like, we'll just have to, once you figure out what's wrong with the core sample, is doing a repair like this or more intensive, do you think?
Oh, it's going to be way more intense. I mean, you're talking the whole entire campus is like that. The whole entire campus. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions related to concrete? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Now we'll go to section 11, legal matters. 11.1, request approval for exoneration of district taxes on block and lots 236B 194 at 605 Kane Way and 236B 198 601 Kenmore Avenue, Rankin Borough, upon the transfer of the property to the County of Allegheny for a fair market value purchase of $4,200, and the district's receipt from the County of Allegheny of a share of the fair market value placed at $2,100.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Seligson. Any questions on this one?
Not a question, but just a comment. We had been thinking inadvertently, and I think we had told the board this is the next step in the replacing the Kenmar Bridge, but this is not that bridge. This is the bridge down by the Cary Furnace development. So the big bridge we were all excited thinking that this isn't going to be for a couple of years yet, and this is a smaller bridge down by the furnace. So sorry for the bad information.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, take the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
That'll move us to Section 12 in school finance. Action item 12.1, requesting ratification of the bill list for invoices paid after the May 16th, 2018 legislative meeting.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions on the ratification list? Okay, seeing none.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.2, request approval of the June 2018 bill list.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions on the bill list? Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.3, request approval of the May 2018 fund reports and student activity reports for your informational purposes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions on the reports? Okay. Seeing none?
Yes.
Thank you.
Nice.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.4, request approval of the investment reports for May of 2018.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions on the investments? Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.5, request approval of the budgetary transfers for June 2018 as detailed.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions? Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.6, request approval of the Homestead Farmstead Resolution 53418.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion? Any other questions? Any questions on this? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.7, request approval of the 1819 final general fund budget resolutions 53518 and 53618.
Is there a motion to adopt the budget as proposed? If we're not prepared to do that, is there a motion to table?
Motion to table.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion to table from Ms. Seligson, with a second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion on the motion to table? Okay. I'll note for the record that we do have to pass a budget by June 30th. So if we table this evening, we'll have to reconvene at some point in order to do that next week. Tentatively, we do have a meeting scheduled for Monday evening at 6 at the high school. That could be a possibility to reconvene at that point. We can discuss that if we need to do that.
I would suggest Wednesdays committee meetings.
We also have Wednesday committee meeting.
That'll give the legislature time to adopt the state budget, and we'll better know what revenues we get if they have it done by then.
Yep, and that's
supposedly they're close.
It's another option as well. So we can discuss the times at the end of the meeting.
When can we discuss some of the information in which why we're not adopting a budget today?
We can discuss budget items here, as long as it's not personnel. We can discuss any of that now. So if we want to discuss budget issues now, we can certainly do that. That would be absolutely appropriate. We also have committee meetings on Monday, which we can discuss.
Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday's finance.
Finance is slated for Wednesday, but we can always re-advertise for Monday and include finance on that as well, if we need to do that, if we want to do that, which I think probably would be wise.
I kind of thought
I'm thinking
Monday is a workshop and Wednesday is a vote. I mean, you're going to be there both days, but that's the board's call.
Yeah, we have that option.
I'm thinking some of the issue with the budget is about staffing, though.
Right. So anything that's we can talk about staffing generally. We can't talk about specific personnel issues. So that's the rub. We can't talk about specific individuals. We can talk about staffing generally as part of the budget, positions and that kind of thing in
You can't
public.
say anything about saying, okay, we want to, within the confines, we want to lay off Joe instead of Mary. That's not. But if we're saying, look, we want to hire more, people in this area or less people in this area, things like that, that's something that's appropriate. So.
So if there's anything, I mean, we're in discussion now. So if there's anything people want to discuss at this point about the budget, we can do that.
I wish we had our paperwork in front of us. It would be more easier.
Sorry?
I wish we had more money from the state.
Yeah. Fair. Paperwork and money. So, okay.
So I'll bring it. I mean, and Mr. Johnson has talked about this a lot. Can we get some numbers on having our own security force? I know you put those together, but can you refresh our memory what those numbers would look like?
Yeah, I sent that in the last update, but I'll send it to you again.
Yes, you did. That's right.
Actually,
okay.
I sent it a couple of updates, but I'll put that. I'll do it. You know what? I will put together. I'll get some contract pricing for the equipment and send that to you with the update. Give you even a little more detail than I've done before. I can break it out pretty precisely.
Well, we can just that's fine. Yeah, you're right. You did send it in the update.
You did send it. I think it was around like 230 or 250.
Yeah, my estimate will be between 230 and 250. You could do what I would consider to be an adequately sized school police department with personnel you select and training you direct and equipment that you decide, which I was supported for a long time.
Yes, I know you have.
So I'll redo the numbers though and send them to you again and put a little more. I'll put them make a little sharper edge to it if I can. I'm happy to do that because I think it's a good idea. I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay. Any other questions?
I guess just trying to remember our optional cuts. Just kind of making sure we have a better idea of non-existent positions. For example, we had that equity officer there that we are pretty sure that's not really should be a part of the discussion because we don't really have that as a position or something to
Still in.
do to.
Part of the budget. There's $50,000 budget for that position. Still in there.
I think what Ms. Suggs might be saying is that maybe that's something that could come out because we have not yet created that position and put that maybe under the, into the commission recommendations or something along those lines. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Am I understanding?
Yep,
correct?
that's what I meant.
Because I would very much like to have a discussion about the use of our guidance office and the overlap with College Access, which is a remarkably successful program, which, we had, $8 million in scholarships this year, which is the highest number we've had in a long time, and a lot of that is due to College Access, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I know my daughter's used their services quite a few times, and so I would hate to lose that resource.
And then on a similar note, we have our RTI specialist, and I think we had 4 possible cuts with that, and I know that's like a huge important part of sort of like counseling. I think that used to be a counseling position for elementary level. I don't think that's something we could afford to cut, especially on the.
But those are those weren't
optional. Yeah,
those are
just,
optional.
but are they really? Yeah.
But they're in the budget right now.
And if we do that, what are some?
They're in the budgets. As you know, they're there now.
Okay. Yeah, I think for their career and college access center, I think everybody here is in agreement. I think we need to support that because I think everybody here realizes that just graduating with a high school degree is not like it meant many years ago. You need to go on and advance yourself with some more specialty to find a decent job if you want to think about getting a house and raising a family, because the jobs available just for high school graduates today, nothing you can sustain yourself on. So I think that's part of our role here as the high school is to make sure we give those options for what they're going to do after high school.
Right.
So they have
the challenge becomes which of our really good programs do we eliminate and which ones do we keep? Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're choosing.
You can make great cases for just about everything that we have, and then you discover pretty soon you put it all back in, and we're right back where we started. I agree.
Sure.
I mean, I will say in emailing some of you, I've gotten a fairly broad consensus that there is widespread support for college and career access. Most of you that I've either emailed or talked to have supported that. If you want it back in, you're the board. We can put that back in and try to deal with it.
I think we have to figure out where that money is going to come from, right? And so and again, I said this at committee or the last meeting. I thought the community and schools program looks really good, but that $92,000 or whatever it was that was budgeted for that spot at the high school, I think career and college access may be more important. I don't know.
The reason I support community and schools is that's really important to our school justice partnership. I mean, we'll be the first ones in this part of the state to have that. It addresses everything that people are talking about here tonight, and I'd hate to make that decision, but if I had to, I would go with the school justice partnership. But I can really understand the case for the other way.
So you don't think that can be covered with the current people we have in the community?
My concern with doing it that way is it requires a great deal of public liaison with a lot of agencies and a lot of people who make the partnership work. And if we add it, the only people who will be appropriate to add it to are the homeschool visitors at the high school who already each have caseloads of about 800 kids. That's really asking them to do a lot more than they already do a lot. And yes, in theory, but I think as a practical matter, what my concern would be is that part of it would be left to go to last, and then that's inevitably what ends up with things not happening. Not because they want it to be that way, just as the practical matter of the time they have available. But I mean, listen, Mike will disagree with me, but the amount of funding you're talking about with college and career access isn't enough by itself to take the whole budget out of equilibrium if you decide you want to do it. I mean, we can manage to finance anything within a limited, but I don't know if I've made myself clear there.
No,
I'm saying I think there's a lot of people on the board to support it. It's certainly not the most expensive thing we've eliminated. So if folks decide you want it back, I can understand that.
Well,
I think we can manage it.
We can communities and schools at 92. We can take 85,000 away from the SROs and eliminate that position.
I mean, that's
because until we figure out a way that they're doing some type of program instead of being in the offices and the only time they engage with our kids is for discipline, I cannot continue to support any resource officer in the schools. It's just there has to be another situation. They have to do something. They can't just be there as monitors. There has to be a program. This is a perfect opportunity for them to interact with the kids to get to know the officers get to know the kids. That way they mean something. And all they do is just
they sit in the office.
Yeah, they're just.
Well, I agree, but I mean, as of right now, I think so if we agree to, get rid of school resources, we have no protection for our students who are there, who are already there. I agree. This is something we should be engaged. We should be working in, but we're up against the wall. The budget's coming up. This is maybe something we should, if we have the SROs for the next year, but then we start engaging, talking about other things. But we can't do it with our backs up against the wall. We got 10 days to go to approve this thing. This is something we should probably start talking about in September and working on a plan towards next year, not 10 days out of a budget, unfortunately. It's all valid. I agree with you.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what type of security you're asking for to do it. I mean, you have 2 officers in a building that size. I mean, there's multiple interests there's multiple ways that anybody could get in if that's the case, if they're going to actually try to do something from the outside threat. The problem we're having is the fact that most of they're the inside threat to some of our kids. See, we have one population of kids who they feel their safety in having an officer, but we have another population of kids, the majority population, who feels a threat to have an officer. Because they see these officers in the communities and they see what they do to them out there.
Well, but I can agree, but I don't think the answer is to get rid of all of our security. So
no, I never said all security. I said resource officers.
Security. I know, but the security officers that we have now,
the armed security.
Okay, well, I mean, but if we get rid of the armed security, then we have the security officers.
Yeah, what we do is we change the security officers. We change them to
a large voice.
Polos and khakis and make them look more like teachers instead of security officers. And then that way, when kids engage with them, it's in a more approachable manner than it is just to have them in some uniform. Okay, a uniform doesn't never define a person, nor does a title.
Correct. I agree. But again, I mean, do we have the time to figure all this stuff out?
I mean, I think
the next 10 days.
I don't know if you have the next 10 days, but I mean, I think what you have is the right idea. First of all, I agree very strongly about the security officers. I think they ought to be de-emphasize the uniform aspect and refocus on student support. I think we can do that. But I think the problem with eliminating SROs is police will still be in the school, because if they're not there stationed, they're going to get called. So you really can't say, well, we're not going to have them there. It's either a question they're going to be staying there, or you're just going to be calling them frequently, because that's what's going to happen. I think we were on the right track with let's move ahead with the idea of doing it ourselves, because then we can take that whole part of it off the table. You're not going to be able to do it over the summer, but you should reasonably be able to do it in 5 or 6 months. I don't know what the time frame would be, but I think it doesn't take an extraordinary amount of time, and then you have control over that function. Because whether they come or whether they're stationed there, they're still outside of your control unless they're your own, I guess is my point.
I mean, we just had a broad meeting with the Department of Education who was in our facility, and we were talking about ways in which we can change the security and the perception of security within our buildings. One of the biggest ways we change is how we think about it, period. It's free to change how you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're paying, I mean, 85 grand, that's another teacher in which we need. You know, there's other resources that our students can actually use than to have some type of security measure in which it hasn't been proven whether or not it worked. If we're talking about outside threats, I mean, Parkland had an armed security guard. He was around the bushes somewhere, not even helping or not even engaging the individual. I mean, we just start being practical about how we view security. And the fact that, I mean, even prisoners, their security guards don't even have weapons. They're in prisons. And these are, they're violent offenders in which, you know, but our students has to be engaged with people with weapons all the time? I don't know.
Well,
but let me ask you this. How many times has somebody pulled a gun on you?
In the last year?
No, period. Oh, you're right. How many times has somebody pulled a gun on you?
3 times.
Really?
I'm serious.
Was it from a police officer?
I have no idea. There's a guy in a motorcycle coming back from
well, I
Homestead.
had guns pulled on me 3 times by police officers. Period.
Okay.
So, my view...
Well, none of those were police officers.
My perspective... Well,
but I'm not fighting
of
on
police
this.
officers are just a little bit different than everybody else's.
Can I ask
There's a threat there.
Sure. So, looking at the budget and the contract that we would be signing with Churchill and with the SRO, do we have an option to do like a half year? Because I would like to get the officers, I would like to get the Churchill police force out of our schools. But I do think we need more security or support for students and staff alike. But we've talked a lot about doing like a security guard or something like that, or whatever that title would ultimately be, could lead programming or do that relationship building and all that kind of thing. But we can't figure that out in 10 days, which is our hard deadline that we're against. Is there something in the middle that we could do, like a contract until the end of the calendar, just so that we have time?
Whatever we're going to do is going to cost us money.
I understand that, but
we hire somebody, we do our own.
I understand that, but if we could meet somewhere in the middle with a contract just until the end of the calendar year, so that we have time to do that kind of work and figure out what it is we want and what we need for our kids and for our staff.
Yeah.
Is that an option?
You'd be able to do whatever the borough would agree to, because
Sure.
they're the other party to this. And if they would agree to it,
Right.
you could do it, certainly.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
stipulations of the
It
contract
would be no. There's nothing in the contract that sacredly said it has to last a year. It's just how we've done it. It's just the usual. We do it for a school year, but
When is our current contract up with Churchill?
We've usually done those in August.
We don't usually do them until August because we don't do anything over the summer.
But we signed it super late. We signed it really late this year, too, right?
Well, it was the MOU.
The MOU was late.
The MOU
and
was,
the contract.
we did the
was two
MOU in
different things.
April.
The MOU was late. Contract was on time.
Mr. Johnson, why is it so difficult to change just a program in which how we use them and what we use them for?
Well, because it's controlled by the contract and the MOU, and basically, they're not our employees, so we really can't.
But we pay them. So if I don't understand if they're not our employees, if we're the main players
Because
paying them.
again, we had to negotiate an MOU and a contract. The MOU lays out the terms, which we had to negotiate with, and we didn't oppose it. It was a negotiation, and so both parties get input into how they're going to operate, including the borough and the district. So we only have control to the extent we can get the borough to agree with whatever conditions we want to have. I mean, for example, we did build on the MOU this time that they would cooperate with the school justice partnership. We get that. That was an advance. They didn't do that before. They didn't want to hear about that. Now they did. So there's a negotiation. You just can't impose your conditions on them because it has to be negotiated with the borough.
I just don't understand if they're residing in our building. I mean, you can keep parents out, you can keep students out, you can keep a lot of other people out of your buildings. Why don't we have control of people we quote-unquote employ within our buildings, what they're there for? I mean, we could keep providers out. They're the only people that for some reason, we can't keep out of our buildings, or at least program what we like them to program. I mean, they could talk about gun safety. They could have an
I agree with you.
anti-violence campaign.
Absolutely.
We need to better review or edit our MOU, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, I mean, why can't we start having those discussions with Churchill prior to August, to where it doesn't even have to we specifically take them out, but they at least campaign for something the district cares about that will help our students understand what's going on.
I mean, you could absolutely ask to have the MOU reopened if you'd want. I mean, that's not you. I mean, you as the board could do that. It's your prerogative.
We can.
Has the building ever had a response team?
Which kind of response team?
Training, de-escalation. They call a code. People come. I come from mental health.
No, we don't have it to that level. I mean, we have a couple. We have some designated teams handle. Like we have a dating violence response team that we have enshrined in policy, and we have a SAP team, and they do a lot of that. But nothing. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there could be. We don't have that right now, but there could be. I mean, the problem is ultimately, this is neither pro or anti-police. You can't keep police out of your building. If somebody calls a police officer, they have a right to come inside the building. You can't say, no, you're not allowed in here. Well, that goes back to the MOU. That goes back to renegotiating the MOU. If you feel that would be appropriate, we could renegotiate the MOU, which is certainly your prerogative.
And if I can add, the MOUs are expiring along with the SRO contracts, at the end of the school year. So we will be signing new MOUs and SRO contracts if you so desire. And they will need to be negotiated, and you can include anything you want because now's the time to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we can certainly have those conversations about whether we convert this to something other than SRO in the budget that we approve. I mean, we could change the line item and have it.
Can you make it security?
We can make it
whatever.
Security, school safety. We can change the line item so that it's not SRO specific, but we can have conversations with Churchill between now and then as well, and let them know sort of what we're talking about. As well.
I mean, right now contractually, the SRO ends. The agreement ends June 30th. But the thing is, a practical matter. Your concern is when school gets back in session, so you do have a little bit of breathing room on it. It's like any other contract. I mean, you either agree, and or you agree with what you have, or carry on what's been kind of thought out before. Ask for modifications. If people agree to the modifications, that then great. If not, then you really look at other alternatives. So, but the big thing is you have something that maybe. The one ends in June, and we tend to do July to June. You can always amend and modify, but the big thing is, the practical answer is, when school starts. That's your real deadline. Mm-hmm. So, right.
So we can do that. We can reach out to Churchill between now and next week as well, and see where they are and talk about what that line item is in the budget, so that we're comfortable with what we have as options. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yep.
I have a question. So when would we be voting then to accept or amend the MOU for next year? Would that be next month?
Whenever we get it.
It would be next month, but again, until until both sides are comfortable, until you're comfortable with it, then
right.
It can be then, it could be August, it can be if people are saying, like, let's suppose you get something together, the day before school starts, but that's after your August meeting. Well, if you have the idea that this is kind of the framework, then you ratify in September or call a special meeting. So there's a lot of these deadlines we can work around. It's the meat and the agreement that you have to deal with.
We don't need to feel rushed by the July meeting or anything like that. I mean, we can talk about this.
I wouldn't actually,
Yeah, we can talk about this and make sure that's something that we're comfortable with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, it was probably going to be quick, but let's talk about the other big thing of this millage increase. That, our options, like about if we choose not to do it versus doing it versus a half. What does that mean for the fate of our district, in your opinion?
Okay, right now, as the budget sits, I've made some additional cuts. We're looking at a projected ending June 30th fund balance of $8.5 million.
For the current fiscal year.
Yes. And based on what's attached to this document, I've gone through since our meeting Tuesday night, and I've cut some other things, and I brought the deficit down to $3.6 million. So that is still with the millage increase of 3.2%. So your 8.5 minus your 3.5, you end up with $5 million at June 30th next year with the full index millage increase. That gets you into 1920 with no problems if this budget holds to itself, revenues and expenditures. That gets you into the next budget year to deal with any contractual increases, salaries and fringes, and the retirement increase we're going to face. So you don't want to look at just this year. You want to look at 2, 3, 4 years out. You're looking at the future to ensure the ongoing concern of the school district and without having any hiccups down the road. If you go with a $500,000 increase, then you're going to add about $750,000 to that deficit.
Sorry, that's to half the index?
That's to half the index.
Not half a mil, half the index.
Half the index, sorry.
Important difference.
Yeah, it's 0.4 of a mil because the index is 0.81.
Right.
It's down here somewhere, 0.8112. So half the increase would cut another $750,000 into your fund balance. Okay, which you end up next year with, $4.25 million as a fund balance. That could get you into the next year, but it might not get you into the 2021 year. So you've got to look and see, what we're going to be needing not only this year, but in future years.
And I know the other thing, I know for all the taxpayers that look at us, I know we have a responsibility to make sure we spend our tax money wisely. But, as a school district, we only get our money basically from 3 different sources, from taxes, from the state government, from the federal government. I don't think everybody's aware of anything they're looking at. State and federal, they're all looking at cutting everything. They're never looking at trying to give us more money every single year, and that's the issue, because how do we deal with that with our employees? Everybody else knows nothing gets cheaper every single year. It's always more expensive. So our contract is never something that just, stays the same. It's always increasing every single year because people want more money and raises and everything, and we have to figure out how to make up with that. And, unfortunately, not myself personally, I view that as one of the most essential forms of government is the education of our youth, because they are all of our future. They're all going to be filling these seats, working and doing all this. I mean, we owe it to ourselves to make sure our children get the best education as possible. For one reason or another, our government doesn't always seem to believe that and doesn't want to, support us in that. So it makes it very tough on us having to make, just like we're talking about here, having to decide, we have a lot of good programs and we have to decide which ones to cut to make it. They're, in the long run, makes me very disappointed in our government in that we have to cut good programs that serve our students just so we can meet our budget, because the government doesn't want to pay their share.
And then one of the things you would be looking at year, 2 years, 3 years down the road is the same programs that are on your option list may not be options at that time.
As if we do not do a millage increase. So by next
year, you've got to plan, for the future. So my suggestion, would be to go to the full index.
With that, and I'm just speaking from a legal thing, but dealing with budgets and not taking a position on it, just the board. But one thing, my observation is that you have to remember, whatever tax increase you forego, you really can't turn around next year and say, well, instead of taking a 3% raise this year, we took half. Now, can I just take that half I passed up this year and apply it next year? And that can't be done. Also, I think when you get into, just as a matter, again, whatever you do, it's none of my business, but also whatever you do into the budget as far as taking something out of reserves, that's always something where if you have plenty of reserves to do that a little bit for the short term, that's fine, but that's something where if you're taking X out of reserves one year, then you have to plan, and I think that's what Mike's meaning when future years, how do you address that? So, but it just, from the legal perspective, I wanted to remind people that whenever if you pass up a tax increase, you can't go back and say, hey, that it's like borrowing money from somebody. I'll borrow 50 instead of 100. Then you go back to them next week and say, hey, can I borrow the other 50? That's not there anymore. So
I should also say that this budget has a significant investment in kindergarten and first grade teachers. Right, so the board, on the recommendation of administration, is trying to reduce class size in those levels to 15 students tops. Right, so it's not like we're cutting everything. There is a significant investment in teachers at earlier grades because that's where the most progress we can hope can be made in reading and math in those students.
And if you're going to put them in, you've got to make it sustainable.
Right.
And the budget has to be sustainable so that the district can move on. So those are the things you have to weigh. But, fund balance is working capital. It allows us to go from month to month and pay our bills without borrowing funds, without running out of money, without not paying bills this month and waiting till the revenue comes in to cover your bills. When it's gone, it's gone. There is no bringing it back. It is one-time money, literally. When you spend your fund balance, there's nothing out there that's going to put it back, short of cutting expenditures or raising revenue.
Right, and I guess we should say the Department of Education recommends 5 to 8% fund balance, and we'll be at 5% roughly or 4%.
Yeah, that would bring us down to about 4 or 5%. Yeah.
So
is that with or without the increase?
It's with the increase.
That's with the increase. So.
Okay. Any other discussion points? Okay, the motion on the floor is a motion to table. Can we call the vote on that?
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Selkson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go to action item 12.8, request approval of the PSBA Basic Unemployment Compensation Plan for unemployment compensation for July 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2018 at a rate of $2.92 per employee in the general fund.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion on the insurance plan? Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
If I can add one item while you're voting. We've approved and will be approving several more items for the 2018-19 school year contracts and insurance and stuff. We will ask you to sign them, but without a budget, we have no authority to spend. So we will sit on those until we have a budget.
Excellent.
Before we send them out.
That's a good note. Thank you. Okay. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.9, request approval of the workers' compensation insurance with Church Mutual Regent, premium amount of $336,682 for the 18-19 school year from the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.10, request approval of the district's insurance package for the 18-19 fiscal year from Church Mutual Regent, PSBA's affiliate, total package cost of $312,637 from general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.11, request approval of the volunteer coverage insurance policy for 1819 at a premium cost of $950 and payment from the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
State has reimbursed like last 5 years.
Yes.
Show that. What?
Thank you.
Yeah. Like, like how much it's like not increased or yeah. Just, so people can actually.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.12, request authorization for participation in the Forbes Road 1819 revenue anticipation note.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 12.13, request permission to open 2 new bank accounts with Pledget to accommodate the general obligation bond series of 2018, the bond proceeds from there, and the capitalized debt account.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, so I must have just been completely out to lunch during the agenda setting meeting, but what is this for, actually?
This is for the bond proceeds, the
These are for
$50 million.
Okay.
We're going to put it into a separate account.
Fair enough.
So I have to open up new accounts for it. You have to approve them.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
I must have either completely
Yeah.
slept
Now,
through this or...
No. I received all the information on Tuesday, and I didn't open up the email until after the meeting, and I went,
so it
whoops.
wasn't- okay.
So it was new.
So I had it.
I may have been sleeping, but
Otherwise
it's
I'd
bad
have
because
Didn't
of
miss
it.
that one.
Yeah, I'd have been in real trouble next Wednesday when we got the money and had nowhere to put it.
My mattress is available if you want to do this stuff.
You couldn't go down to the casino and put it on the bed.
No.
I'd never do that.
Nope, not an option. Okay. Seeing any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
That'll move us to Assistant Superintendent and item 13.1, permission to accept the 1819 Waterfront Learning Services contract for secondary education at a cost not to exceed $25,505, plus professional development with funding from ASN 2840-648. That's in the general fund. The agreement is attached.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any discussion on this?
This is all for credit recovery this summer, or is this for the online academy for next year?
This is WOA and credit recovery and then any supplemental lessons teachers want to do and writing translation.
How many students are we looking at for online for credit recovery this summer?
Credit recovery this summer, we're about 50. And we ended WOA this year 70.
That's pretty good. How many is that from the year before that?
50, so we're increasing it, stopping the bleed if you will.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Move to Section 14, Superintendent, action item 14.1, approval of $500 reimbursement for property loss incurred by the Swiss Bell Softball Association. Master, I'm wondering if we could defer action or table this possibly. I did have a conversation with the gentleman who was going to get me that, but I haven't gotten it out of yet. I can reach back out to him. Maybe it's my fault I didn't reach out to him again, but I don't have anything from him yet.
Okay.
We can meet till Monday or so, or when do we meet again?
Is there a motion to table?
I make a motion to table.
Thank you.
I said, can we make a motion just so, because I know, isn't the softball season coming up pretty quickly? They might, I don't know how quick, just as soon as they get the information to you, we could pay them then.
Before we do that, there was a second? Did I hear a second?
Second.
On the motion to table? Okay, sorry.
Okay, well, I mean, I just,
I would think maybe the best thing to do is have him check it out. If it ends up things are fine, he can pay it and then it'll be ratified with the board, assuming the board doesn't have any issue with it. That's what I'd suggest.
Okay.
Okay. Motion. Any further discussion? Sorry, Jeff.
No, that's fine. I just know sometimes things come up like that. You start. I don't know how.
I agree, and I mean the gentleman's honorable, and he's been very good with us. And we communicated, and then I got busy, and I mean, it's maybe my fault I didn't reach back out to him, but he was going to bring me those, and we just didn't connect. But I will certainly reach out to him again.
Yeah, I'd hate for the girls to go.
No, I don't want to see him either. I don't want to see him made whole.
And not have any catcher's equipment or anything else like that. That's
Mr. Vogel.
mandatory, just to make sure you can play.
Sorry. Mr. Vogel, could we also approve contingent on receipt of receipts?
Yeah, I mean, you could do it contingent. If you'd say, here's what I would do on that. I would table this, and then if it's, I would table this, have Al ask for receipts on this too. That we'll give them to him, but we'll need receipts, and then ratify at the next meeting. Okay.
Okay.
Is that a workable solution? Everybody? Okay, so the motion on the floor is a motion to table. Ms. Pule?
Mrs. Alexson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Lasser?
Yes.
Action item 14.2, request permission to establish a student activity fund for the Woodland Hills High School called the Woodland Hills High School Black Student Union.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 14.3, approval of the dual enrollment agreement with the Community College of Allegheny County.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. Are we currently doing this? Because I don't ever remember approving this contract, unless I just forgot. And the other thing is, I'm a little confused. Are they coming to us, or are we going to them? Is it
would be for us to go to them.
Okay.
We don't. Candy's here. She can address it. I don't think we use it a lot because most of our kids prefer the AP option. But Ms. Nagy, do you know if we have any kids in dual enrollment?
We do have students in dual enrollment. We actually have one next year that's going to be dual enrollment for his entire schedule.
Okay. More than I thought. But it's all done at It's all done at Boyce campus. We don't have nothing going on at the high school. I don't believe. Do we?
Yeah, it doesn't go on at the high school. They attend either CCAC or one of the campuses, and they sometimes have a split schedule.
Right.
Come in the afternoon after their morning classes. Sierra Turner is somebody that did it this year. She attended CCAC and then did the rest of her schedule out of high school in brick and mortar. But she was attending college classes. We have students that do that with some others because the cost of the credits from CCAC comes out of their pocket, not ours. But we still have to have the contract so that the dual enrollment rolls into our transcripts for the students and counts for their credits for graduation.
Okay, because some of the reading of the contract was like, it sounded like it was our teachers that had to be trained or something. I don't know. Okay. But if they're all going there.
We can't do that. If we get our teachers properly certified, then we can offer the credit at the high school. We just don't do that presently.
Okay, that's why. Okay,
The
that's
problem with that's always been that you have to have a master's degree in the content area you're teaching. It's relatively uncommon in education. A lot of people have master's degrees or even doctors, but it's typically in a curriculum or something like that. You'd have to have, like if you're doing a chemistry, you'd have to have a master's in chemistry, and we have some of that, but not a lot.
okay. That's the part that I wasn't figuring out. All right, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 14.4, request approval of the proposal with Reynolds Construction to provide construction and closeout phase services for the construction of additions and renovations planned for the Woodland Hills Junior Senior High School in the amount of $921,200 in accordance with the terms and conditions of the owner construction manager agreement previously approved in November of 15th of 2017. All funding coming from the Capital Projects Fund 39.
So moved.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett.
If I could add something, I think when I was talking to Mike about it, we want to triple check that that's been reviewed. We're a little uncertain about whether our office reviewed that proposal. So I would request that it would be that keep the motion as it is, but pending solicitor review.
Okay. Is that agreed to by Dr.
Yes.
Hildebrand, Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Okay. So as a friendly amendment, then we'll amend the tab to include pending solicitor review.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
I thought we did send that down, but okay, we'll check it.
Okay. Seeing no questions or discussion on this, we'll vote on the tab as amended.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Strickler's here from Reynolds. Thanks, Mr. Strick, for coming on. Action item 14.5, request approval for Leisha L. Lentz to attend a restorative practices trainer workshop in Oakland, California, June 28th and 29th of 2018. The cost for travel and lodging not to exceed $900 estimated.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah. I have something. Thank you. Just tell us a little bit more about what the workshop's going to be like. Your agenda.
A little description of the workshop.
I did place it in the update.
So the
so people know.
Public.
Oh, for everyone to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Selix and I didn't know. Sure. So the training is with Kyle McClurklands, who is out of Oakland Unified School District in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it's a 2-day training where you get knowledge of school-based restorative justice theory and practice, being restorative in your work, using restorative conversations, doing the restorative justice circle process, and feeling connected and focused on shared values as a staff as they enter the new school year. A couple of highlights will be day one is a foundation training, so you kind of get the history of restorative practices, what it means, why we're using it in schools, things of that nature. And then day two, you sit in a circle, and it really is looking at the foundations from day one, but then also doing conversations, community building activities, dialoguing, and then actually doing scenarios. Oakland Unified School District was in D.C. when we went 3 years ago. They are the top school district in the nation on restorative practices. The University of Pittsburgh was able to get these spots for us for free. We just have to pay for travel. And then subsequently with this training, July 17th and 18th, we're sending 50 staff members from Woodland Hills down to Pitt for a 2-day training. It's also free. So this is kind of my end to be able to kind of be a
top-level administrator that kind of oversees this and can hold everybody else accountable for it. So I'm super excited about this, and to become a facilitator is exciting.
My question was, well, you answered one through your thing, but my second question was, I thought we decided to send 2 people.
Do we have a
Jen,
second?
Jen Johnson. Jen Johnson
Okay.
is going to do it.
Wouldn't we have to amend this
Well,
tab?
she's not on the.
Well, we spoke about it the other day, so she's going to get the conference request, and can we ratify that one?
Well, can we amend it now?
Yeah, why don't we
Do you want to?
Yeah.
You want to
We can amend it now if someone
It
would
literally
like that.
just happened yesterday, right, Jen? Yeah.
Sorry. That's okay.
Yeah, so that's my.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So can we amend the, Dr. Hildebrand, Mr. Hanchett, are you okay with a friendly amendment to
Yes.
include Ms. Johnson as well? Okay. So that'll be 2. And what will the cost then be?
She's around the same, I think.
So it'll-
8 and 9.
No more than-
Yeah.
So not to exceed 1,800 would be appropriate then? For both?
Yeah, that's correct. It'll be not to exceed 1,800 for both.
Okay.
It'll probably be less, but not to exceed that.
Okay. Is that amenable? Okay. Mr. Vogel suggested we go to 2,000 just to be on the safe side with airfare?
Yes.
So, is that acceptable to everybody? Okay. Any other questions about the pretty exciting training?
They're willing to fly Spirit.
It's a long flight.
Mega bus.
It's a long flight.
Relax, okay? I'll get the exit row.
All right.
It's been amended.
The tab has been changed. So, seeing any other questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, the vote is up.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing about that training.
Me too.
Yeah. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 14.6, request approval to allow the superintendent to purchase surplus computer systems from the district at a total purchase price of $700. It's my desktop and laptop systems.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion on this tab?
I don't know, my personal opinion, I think, we could just do this. Mr. Johnson explained it to us last week. This is his personal computer he's had for the last 5 years. I think, just for this last, he's been there for 7 years. I think we could just give him the computer because whoever we get a new superintendent here, we're probably going to just get him a new laptop for him. So that's my personal opinion. I think we can do that and just say thank you for the 7 years of hard work we're here in the district.
Well, what happens is, if you when you have equipment like that, you just can't say, here it is. Now, I think if, I know Al had been looking into that, and I think, how did that $700 figure come up? Because that does sound a little bit high.
I just looked around for the highest quotes I could find on the 2 things used.
Is our tech person here tonight?
Steve.
Steve is.
Steve, you here?
He's back here.
Ask him how much he believes it's worth.
Here he comes. I see him.
It's like magic.
The reflections, I can see him.
Hey, Steve.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Muter. How are you?
Great. What was the question again?
The value of Mr. John's systems.
It said 700 on the agenda, but we thought it might be lower.
Yeah, I'd say that. I'd agree with that too. It could be a little bit lower.
But how much? Yeah, name a number.
Ballpark, like
Yeah.
What's that laptop? What do you think it would be worth?
I think both together, $450 to $500.
You could do it for $450 then if you wanted to amend it for that.
Are we amenable to that?
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Group.
But you don't have to, but thank you.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Hanchett, Dr. Hildebrand, amenable to that as a friendly amendment?
Thank you very much. Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Okay. So we'll make that amendment. The vote will be on the tab as amended. Any further questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's been amended.
Okay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. It'd be like taking 2 old friends with me. I appreciate it.
Okay.
That's all I have, Ms. Glasser.
Okay. Is there any old business?
Yeah, we had a presentation last week about a potential or redevelopment project about the artist space and things like that.
We did.
Can we sort of talk to Mr. Vogel's office at some point about how we can
What options we
have for abating taxes
Could you
or
get us a
whatever
memo
like
on that?
Okay.
A brief memo on our tax options for.
All right, no problem.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't. I mean, when would you like it by? That's the thing.
He needs 2 weeks, right? Or
Oh, if I can tell you now what my belief is.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll write it in the memo now. Now, what happens is, in order to provide tax relief, school districts are pretty limited, and keep in mind, it's based on the thought that they don't want people giving things out to their friends. Usually the options are, I think, a Keystone Opportunity Zone, which is based out of really a creature that the state has to create. And also the other thing is a lot of times distressed communities create LERTA districts whereby you don't get taxed by you only get taxed. There are limits, or it's limited on how much your improvements are taxed, which is something I think this person would be interested in. The thing is to adopt the LERTA resolution like we do in Wilkins Township. That's something I believe the municipality has to do first, and then we can piggyback on it and provide that.
Right.
Absent that, we just can't unilaterally say your block gets this benefit.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah.
The LERTA agreement was the only thing I could think of, but yeah, Braddock has to. We just can't give that to an individual or a company or whatever.
You just can't do that. For something like what he was saying, they have things such as tax increment financing, but that tends to be, as I recall, when Jamie told me about the project, I don't think that would qualify for something like that. That's like if you're building shopping centers or things like that, or big apartment buildings.
So we really have.
You're really limited on.
I mean, unless Braddock comes up with something for that region, and then they come to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's have to be done.
That's what I sort of thought, but thank you.
I think so. Then we could just say it would be agreeable to something, but Braddock has to kind of like
Braddock has
set
to
the table for us first.
Yeah, has to set the lead for that. So.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other old business? Okay, seeing none. Any new business?
You'll do the tap for Mr. Beatty.
Yes. Is there? We had a conversation previously regarding.
We need a tap authorized
coaching
payment for
position.
Mr. Beatty.
Yes. I make a motion to authorize a tab to pay Mr. Beatty for his wrestling services. For him coaching a wrestling
coaching
services.
For payment of services as an assistant wrestling coach. I was assistant varsity wrestling coach.
We don't have to officially have his wrestling coach. So, and what was the amount of that? Do we know offhand?
Good question.
Angel stepped out.
Stepped outside.
I thought it was like $1,500 or something.
It's in the act. I can't remember what it is.
Or would be per. I'll tell you what. If it's a standard, if it's per the standard figure in the collective bargaining agreement,
it is that.
That's what it is.
Okay, we'll do that.
It's based, no policy.
He doesn't have points. Okay.
28.
Okay.
Approximately 28. She said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We can put it in the as per the CBA.
As per the CBA.
Is the best way to do that, I think. Okay. So I have a motion by Mr. Graves, a second by Mr. Belmont. Any questions or discussion on this that would be public? Okay. Seeing none, Ms. Pule?
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Strauss-Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes. Okay. Any other new business? Okay. Seeing none, that'll move us to committee reports, which we are due to look at. Okay. I will open with technology. The Technology Committee met on May 22nd, 2018, and discussed the tabs that we approved this evening. Thank you all for that. And the renewals for our software packages for the 18-19 school year. That was the extent of the meeting at that time. The committee will meet again next week on Monday at the high school. Mr. Seligson, special ed?
Sure. Sorry, my paper's loading. We voted on this today, but the behavior health supports the Promise program, the extra therapeutic classroom. So we approved that today, and then the additional of the MHP service to FTES classrooms. It's a lot of acronyms. The cost to the school district.
Okay. And people personnel?
Pupil personnel, we had our Awaken program come in. She explained how that worked. I think it was just at the academy. A lot of positive reviews, just about being mindful, how to talk to our students, how to take a break as an adult, and kind of think about how you're saying things and how we're connecting to our kids. And it's really good feedback, and I hope we could bring it back again. We had about 15 consistent teachers that participated in it. So, sort of like our other program, our restorative justice kind of thing. So, and also I'll do Forbes really quickly. We had our graduation. We had over a dozen students graduate. Really proud of them. Great ceremony. It was a good day.
Good. Thank you for doing that. Policy.
Policy committee met, I believe, June 5th, actually, after our regular committees. We reviewed the fraternization policy and updated that. We revised the facilities usage policy and the homeless student policy, all things that were on this evening's agenda. We also visited the idea of a uniforms policy, a swearing policy, and a cell phone policy, and looked at what existed in the Student Code of Conduct already.
Okay. Curriculum, Dr. Hildebrand?
Yeah, so basically it was a pretty short agenda. Mr. Clausen, in his continuing efforts to make sure everything is aligned, is working on our algebra curriculum to make sure that we're aligned with the Keystone tests as well as we think we are. And so kudos to Mr. Clausen for going through all our curriculum areas and making sure we're aligned. And that was actually a big focus of the commission report. So I think we're ahead of the game on that at some level.
Great.
And that's it.
Okay. And finance, we may have covered the bulk of that already, but Mr. Graves.
Yes, the biggest thing is just the budget update and presentation and some of our options on what we can do for there. And we had a discussion about the insurance package renewal cost and also the PSBA Bucks Basic Unemployment Compensation Program.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay. I will also report that I attended the graduation at Sunrise School this year, although we had no students graduate from Woodland Hills from that program. It was also a lovely evening with a lot of impressive accomplishments for those students as well. So that will close committee reports. Anything else from any other committees at this point?
Okay. Jamie, can I say something?
Yes, Mike.
Just wanted to let the group know on the community relations agenda, we're going to have two topics of discussion. Number one is charter schools, and number two is community advocacy.
Okay. Thank you for that. That'll be next week. A reminder that our committees will meet on Monday and Wednesday next week. Monday's meetings will be at the high school. Wednesday's meetings will be here. We'll also be discussing the budget in a workshop format on Monday, and we'll reconvene the meeting to consider the budget in a vote on Wednesday. Okay. And that brings us, unless there's anything else, to public communication. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board at this time?
Excuse me, what time are we going to reconvene?
Oh, sorry. The meetings are scheduled for 6 p.m. Do we want to reconvene? I need the will of the board. Do we need to reconvene it earlier? Do we want to do earlier than 6 on Wednesday to reconvene?
Well, committees are scheduled for
6.
For 6.
For 6. So we could reconvene earlier at 5 or thereabouts if we wanted to do that.
They are at 6.
Okay. You may have to reconvene at 5 for personnel thing that you discussed as well.
Correct.
So we
were talking about that on Monday, though.
On Monday.
We were talking about that on Monday.
This on Wednesday.
We were talking about this for right the reconvening. We were going to reconvene the meeting on Wednesday. So do we? What's the sense? Do we want to do earlier and then have committees after?
I opted out of not going to the presentation for 2 days. It
Okay.
Down in Pitt, so I can meet earlier.
Okay. Okay.
That's fine.
5 o'clock. Does 5 o'clock work?
I'm on a plane at 5:30.
Okay.
I'll do what I can.
Okay. So we can phone you in for a few minutes, potentially?
Hopefully.
Okay. But that you're not going to be there at 6 then, for sure.
I land at 6:40.
Okay. So we will then plan to reconvene the meeting to vote on the budget, presumably at 5 p.m. on Wednesday. Okay?
That's here?
And that'll be here. That'll be here. Okay?
Question.
Yes.
What time would you like the budget workshop on Monday? Because I'm going to have to advertise that.
That'll be at 6.
It's going to be at 6, not earlier than that.
Not earlier.
Okay.
No.
Is that the only thing we're doing Monday? Is the budget workshop?
And our
Or are we doing the other?
We'll hopefully we'll have short agendas, but if there's anything we need to discuss for other committees, we can have those.
Okay.
The other committees that have been scheduled that night as well. We will plan to have the regular committee meetings on Wednesday too, if we need to. Presuming there's agendas for those. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Everybody clear on the schedule?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Mike, anything else that you need to document? Okay. Okay. So now that brings us to public communication. If there's anyone who wishes to address the board, we welcome that at this time. Please come to the podium. Again, your comments are limited to 2 minutes. We ask that you give your name and address of residence, and we welcome and invite comment at this time. Thank you.
My name's Sarah Hodge, 332 Churchill Road, Wilkins Township. I had 3 children in the school district. I'd like to thank you for all of the positive programs that you have for the children. 62% of the population lives in an impoverished situation. So it's difficult for some of these children to find a meal. And I know that you do have the free lunch program, so that certainly does help. They are people who have developing minds. They live in incredibly stressful situations daily. And I believe that subjecting them to an environment with armed guards or police officers only further adds to the stress of their situations. And I think that there are more positive programs, more encouraging and more supportive programs for the community that could be instituted instead of armed police officers. I would hope that when you do discuss the budget, that is something that you do remove from your line items, especially if it's going to be in favor of some of the more positive programs like the Pathways to College and Careers. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Crystal Grabowski, 600 Alameda Avenue, Edgewood Township. Prior to moving to Pennsylvania, I was a teacher in a city charter school for many years. And when I moved here, one of the things that I did was I subbed at Woodland Hills in the middle school. And one of the things that I experienced when I was here is I was in a room in which a fight broke out, and I didn't have a phone in the room. I had a button. And when I pushed it, a school resource officer showed up. And one of the things that I just wish, as a teacher who's worked with predominantly low-income school in the school districts, is I had guidance counselors that were full-time, that I had social workers, that I had even security guards, and not police officers with guns, because I have never, in the 10 years that I have been teaching and involved in education, needed a police officer to be there. What I needed was guidance officer or guidance counselors and social workers, psychologists. That is what I always needed. I did not need police. The students do not need police. They need actual resources that will help them. And I really hope that you will consider not renewing the contract with the police officers, with those police departments, because I do not think that is what the students need. I think they need that money going to other resources.
Thank you.
Hi, and thank you very much. My name is Beth Ussery, and I'm from 15 Fairview Road in Forest Hills. And I just kind of want to piggyback off of what everyone else has been saying. I do not believe that we should have police officers in schools. I think that this is, it's a learning institution, and at a time when we have to be really aware of how, things are playing out in our neighborhoods. Like, there's a different set of roles for people who look like me. And I have also had negative experiences with the police, especially Churchill police. So I think that we need to be mindful. And I definitely think that the money could be better spent. And there are great programs. And, sorry, I just get really choked up. I think that we could do better for our kids. And I don't think that having cops in the schools is the way to go. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello again, David Grieve, 208 West Westville Avenue. I've already spoken before, so I'll just be quick. I want to speak more about the practical matter that was discussed regarding the budget and how it relates to these school resource officers. Since the concern was about having enough time to do this, I think Ms. Jamie Glasser's suggestion about softening the line item and making it, having it have a broader definition so you have more flexibility with how you would divert that money into different places is a good solution. It would provide you with the breathing room that you need to decide exactly what plan you go, and then you can ultimately then divert that money away from the SRO. One such proposal that was brought up tonight, I would refer back to Ms. Akia Kester's suggestion about the officer in Rankin, making him, instead of an officer, an actual staff member, somebody who would be the head of the security guards. Then you also wouldn't have the concern about the MOU, because he's a staff member. You would have full control over that position. So I strongly urge you to please go about that so you have a little bit more time. But again, the end result should be that the school resource officers are no longer in the school, and you find another way to do this. And we've heard, I think, enough ideas here about how this could possibly go. Plus, we also have some people going to that restorative justice workshop. You could maybe find some interesting ideas through that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Darnika Reed, 134 Leniki Street, Wilkins Township. Okay, so I also want to speak to the police again in schools. First off, you have security guards. They're supposed to keep the building secure. There's no reason to have a police officer there. You are paying security guards for that reason. Also, a problem that I've been seeing is that police officers, they shouldn't be breaking up fights, but when they are and they are hit, because even if you break up preschoolers from a fight, a sand fight, whatever, people can get hit. One family in particular reached out to me because of an issue where the child was in a fight and the child hit a police officer, and while he was defending himself, that child was charged with a felony in the district. Again, we're ruining lives by keeping them there. Two, the police officers don't listen. They don't have to, because their superiors don't make them. So what you can do is this. Take some time out, or I'll take some time out, and I'll send you some federal complaints so you can find out what they have been doing in the school and why you were sued. Because, first off, Quayshawn last year alleges that he was called a homophobic slur by a Churchill police officer. That's a problem. Also, there's a girl who was in that same lawsuit. She alleges that he called her mom a black bee, which is a racial slur, and a racial slur. There's no, they don't like our kids. Period. I have not heard one time where someone had something positive to say about Churchill Police. Now, the Rankin police officer, yes, I've heard positive things about him, but he's still a police officer. He should not be in a school as a police officer. Now, if you want to forgo that equity officer and make him an administrator or make something worth his while so that he can secure the district and make sure everything's fine, I'm perfectly fine with that. He needs to be out of uniform. He needs to be called Mr. whatever his last name is. And he should not be charging kids. If he's breaking up fights, I break up fights. I don't call police on kids. They should not be calling the police for a regular fight. If they're not being stabbed, there's no reason for them to call the police. Period. They should not be charged for that. It's ridiculous. And it's like until board members end up in lawsuits because they are allowing this to continue, it's going to continue. And I have a problem with that because if my child is hurt, you better believe I'm going to look up how I can get you in the lawsuit. You are allowing this to happen, and it does not need to happen. You have security guards for these things, and you're paying them. Also, what is the racial imbalance? Like, what's going on with the HUGS program? Who in the district is regulating that? Why are they only in, like, it seems like Wilkins in Turtle Creek? They shouldn't be in. I mean, the kids of color need to be supported. Period. From all programs, they're not. I mean, we can do better than this. You have a chance now to get these police officers out of the district. They don't like our kids. Period. And on top of that, one of these kids could have been killed. And I'm hoping that's not what it takes for you to understand that they don't need to be there. For one of them to get shot and killed by a police officer at school. It's unacceptable. Like, get over it. We don't need them there. And the fact that these teachers are just calling them for frivolous infractions is unacceptable as well. That's racism. When they come in here and they're advocating for certain administrators to keep their jobs, that's interesting because when kids are being hurt, they're not coming in here complaining about that. They're complaining because they want the stuff to continue. That's why they come in here and say, "Oh, well, we're afraid of the kids. Please keep Miss Such and Such." They know what they're doing. You all need to also watch Ethnic Notions. Watch Ethnic Notions, which is a documentary, and then watch that board meeting. It was in October when they were in here telling you to promote the principal in the high school. Watch that, and then watch that video, and tell me what you see. Because that's racism, is what it is. And that's the problem here. And you can fix it. It's up to you to do it. Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to address the board at this time?
Ms. Foster, just real quick, as an administrative team, we just wanted to, just because it's the last board meeting for Mr. Johnson, I know he's been here for 7 years, the last 2 have been rough, but we wanted to thank him on behalf of the administrative team for all he's done for us. So
thank you. Thank you very much.
That's it. Motion to adjourn?
Nope. We will recess the meeting and plan to reconvene at 5 p.m. a week from tonight at the 27th in this room. Thank you all for being here.
It's 9:30.
Thank you.